There are only a handful of rules that apply at all times and places in American politics. One of them, don't mess with Texas. Yet that's exactly what Attorney General Eric Holder did recently when he prevented the Lone Star State from implementing a new law that required voters to present a photo ID. This isn't the first time that Holder's Justice Department has come down hard on a state trying to keep its elections free of the taint of fraud. They took similar action against South Carolina in December, and now both states are being forced to fight this out in the federal courts. Holder's challenge to the laws comes out of the 1965 Civil Rights Act, a landmark piece of legislation that sought to ensure that voters would never be denied their right to a ballot because of racial discrimination. The law's original intent was noble and fundamentally just, but it's now been almost entirely fulfilled. Yet the Justice Department still retains the ability to dictate the terms of elections to states that were given special scrutiny under the Civil Rights Act. And, as is often the case with government programs that have accomplished their goals, the feds aren't looking to relinquish that expanded power anytime soon. That leads to the sort of paper-thin justifications that the Justice Department offered up against South Carolina and Texas. They claimed the voter ID requirements were discriminatory against poor minorities who wouldn't be able to afford the identification. Yet that claim ignores the fact that both states actually offer ID cards free of charge to those who don't already have a valid piece of identification. Requiring voters to present a photo ID is an essential aspect of ensuring the integrity of our elections by preventing voter fraud, not a kind of covert racism, as the left claims. Across the nation, more than 2 million dead voters are still on the election rolls, and many living individuals are registered in multiple states. Even former Supreme Court Justice John Paul Stevens, one of the more liberal justices during his tenure on the bench, agreed that voter ID is a legitimate safeguard for states to put in place when he wrote the majority opinion upholding Indiana's voter ID law in 2008. And let's be honest, requiring a photo ID isn't setting the bar all that high. Americans aren't allowed to drive cars, board airplanes, or use credit cards without photo IDs, and you certainly can't walk into Eric Holder's Justice Department without one. Liberals claim that voter identification requirements are just a means to keep Democrats away from the voting booth. But the evidence cuts sharply in the other direction. After voter ID laws were implemented in Georgia, turnout for Democrats actually went up 6%. In Indiana, it was up by 8%. Attorney General Holder should have enough faith in the American people to understand that we can have elections that are both open and secure at the same time. He should stop the federal government's endless interference in the affairs of the states. And he should also stop messing with Texas. That's this week's Freedom Minute.